On behalf of Bloomsbury Publishing India, I'm pleased to welcome all of you to the launch of Born Wild, Journeys into the Wild Hearts of India and Africa.
Hello and welcome to Born Wild, the show that takes you to the heart of wild India. It takes you up close and personal to some of India's most endangered animals and the people who help them fight for their survival.
It's angry, desperate villagers trying to save their crops and homes, and it's angry, hungry elephants desperate for food.
The sloth bear is a Schedule 1 animal. Basically, it enjoys the same status of protection as the tiger. But for years, in India's tradition, for 300 years, they've been used in captivity as dancing bears. In today's show, we go all the way across to the west, to Saurashtra in Gujarat, to the Gir Sanctuary and National Park, the last home to the wild Asiatic lion. The question is, if we cannot find the motivation to save the tiger, what are we going to find the motivation to save?
As we have the largest numbers of tigers in the world, we are the custodians of this wonderful creature. We have the responsibility to protect and preserve this animal for the rest of the world. It is our pride and the envy of the rest of the world. Indian jungles have to be its last safe home, not its killing fields.
Well, NDTV has, I'm very, very proud to say, has been actually pioneers in the field of environment reporting, nature, wildlife, and we've been doing it for many, many years, for about 21 years. And I have to tell you a little secret. Why 21 years? Because 21 years ago, somebody joined us. So the secret is that actually Swati Thiyagarajan is the pioneer that made NDTV get into environment and into wildlife and into nature. And we are very, very grateful for that. She is the pioneer of pioneers in India. No doubt about it in my mind. And Swati's knowledge and interpretation of the environment and wildlife and nature is about interconnections. She really gets the whole picture, the logic, the reasoning, and she connects the economy and the profits with what's happening to our environment. And it is the interconnection actually which makes this book so really rewarding. If you read each bit, you'll understand the bigger picture along with the exciting anecdotes that it portrays. But by the way, I'll just end by saying that in this era of fake news, especially on the environment, because we are told by no less than Donald Trump that there's no global warming, there's no climate change, we have no pollution, and certainly nothing to do with the profit motive. So you need a book like this. This breaks through fake news. It is the antidote, antithesis of fake news. So Swati, well timed. I think right time to bring this, and Mr. Trump should read it. Thanks very much for joining.
So thank you everybody for coming. That's the main thing, to see everybody here. And so many of you have really been so supportive and encouraging through all my various things that I did in NDTV and everything that I wanted to do. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to read a small excerpt from my book. This is from the introduction, just so you'll have an idea of where we might carry the discussion, because it's the introduction in the introduction, I've tried to sort of keep it short and write about what I have written about through the whole book. I have to thank Gargi, because Gargi started Born Wild with me. And I just absolutely could not have done it I just could not have done it without her. There's no chance that, I would have done it on my own. So I've written the book, but she's definitely in the book. She's part of the book. So much of everything that I've done, Gargi's been a part of. So thanks, Gargi. And all right, so the introduction. So the greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. and that's Robert Swan. Let me start out by saying that this is not a book on natural history or wildlife biology or nature travels or investigative reporting or fluff pieces on the cute and cuddly or about people's movements to save nature. This is a book that has all of the above in bits and parts as seen through my eyes, my travels, my work, my research, and the wonderful people and animals who guided me on my way. So in short order, it's a book of the natural world in the way I see it and have reported on it for NDTV on my show Born Wild. I have had the privilege to travel across India and then more recently Southern Africa and report from all of the places I have visited. So when the idea for writing the book came up, I thought to myself, why not compare, mix and match, and just write about everything that has ever touched me, changed my view of the world, challenged preconceived notions, and just made me understand that no matter how much I might venture into nature, nature venturing into me has had the far greater effect. I thought to myself, can I share that? If I can, will it inspire more people to venture out and allow nature in? We're living in interesting times. No, not the politics, which for me are more depressing than interesting, but interesting in that we have a decade now, if that, to change the way we are at present consuming the world around us. We're in the 6th mass extinction wave. By 2050, there will be more plastic in the world's oceans than fish. Climate change is here no matter if we agree or disagree on whether it is human-induced. According to climate scientists, our carbon budget is near exhaustion. That is all the carbon every single person in the world can use before we reach a tipping point. We will be at 9.7 billion people by the year 2050, and according to Professor Emeritus of Microbiology Frank Fenner, who helped wipe out smallpox, the human race faces extinction within 100 years due to all of the previously mentioned issues facing us. In an interview with Sir David Attenborough, which I have included at the end of this book, he said to me, "How do we expect to grow infinitely in a finite world?"
And I'm especially excited to be a part of the release of Born Wild. As Swati said, it's a show that we shot in 2002, and it was my foray into reporting, and it was amazing to get this opportunity and this space for environment on NDTV, and it was great to learn from Swati, the ins and outs of reporting on the environment. And even today, I think NDTV is the one channel that gives a lot of space to this sort of coverage, to this sort of news that you and I, we need to be more concerned about. So I think in that sense, NDTV is a part. And as Swati said, we had, she's talked about it in the book, a lot of adventures, a lot of fun shooting the Born Wild series. She talks about a couple of our experiences, like in the Gir forest when we were there for 1.5 days. We hadn't seen any lions, and we were extremely tense because, we had a shoestring budget and it was just 2 more days to go, and we were shooting at a watering hole when Swati, who was at a bit of a height, saw a lion come running down, and me and the camera person were really concentrating on the shot. Then she yelled out, and we look up and we see this lion there, and he looks at us and he runs in the other direction. And the camera person was also about to run towards the forest guards, but I caught him, and Swati grabbed the camera stand, and we went running after this lion. And after running for a bit, we just stopped. We said, what are we doing? We are like running after a lion. And I know that's really wrong. We should never do that. Bahar, I can see you shaking your head saying, oh my God, what bad behavior. But we've had our adventures, we've had our thrills and fun. But that aside, this is also, of course, a very, very important book. As Swati said, this is something we all need to be very concerned about. Recently, the big headline has been that the 6th mass extinction is underway. And that means we're losing animals at a faster rate than ever before. This is the first time it's happening in the course of mankind, and it's happening due to mankind as well because of the shrinking spaces that we're leaving for our wildlife. And I don't think we're frightened enough about this as we should be. I mean, we're frightened. Definitely, we're all very frightened here. But in general, I don't think people are thinking enough about what this means, that we could lose 2/3 of our species by 2030, 2040. So Swati, I think I'd like to
Yeah, I think that's the whole thing. I think, we're not alarmed enough. And as I quoted Robert Swan, the whole thing about expecting someone else to come along and save it, or as Jane Goodall said, that apathy is our greatest danger, really, more than anything else. And I'm really glad that NDTV at least gives us the platform on which to report all of this, because the problem is, I think, worldwide the priorities are skewed. I mean, obviously, if you get bombarded with news about terrorism, or you get bombarded with news about, I don't know, like economic collapse, or if you get bombarded, then you think that, oh my God, those are singularly the biggest threats facing you. But if you were to look at, just if you take India, for example, you know, the shrinking spaces for animals and humans, and even though we have a tradition of tolerance, just sheer stress of living cheek to jowl, we're losing something like two people statistically a day to conflict, and we're losing more animals, and that's more than any amount of terrorism or anything actually kills in the country, and we're not paying enough attention to this. Wouldn't you say, Bittu? Like, this is something that we're not alarmed enough about.
Bittu has been someone who's been talking about how we're circling the drain for quite a while now, and I think now things are really reaching ahead. And I would like to say that Bittu's been a part of many of our environment campaigns, and so has WWF. We're shooting a new series of Born Wild, and WWF is our knowledge partner there. But yes, Bittu, so this is something you've been talking about and yelling about and just trying to create, it's your passion, you've been trying to create awareness about this for so long.
Yeah, well, I've been trying to do it for quite some time, but I have to say that, you know, when you're old enough and you look from left to right, you see the journey is actually quite long, and quite a lot of things have been done. The first accusations were, you are a CIA agent, you are here to stop the development of India, you are a plant. If you are not all that, I said a plant, I'd love to be, but if you're not all that, then you are an elitist, middle class, English speaking shit. Because you just want to save animals, and here are people dying. Yahan log mar rahe hain, tum log ye kya kar rahe ho? So there was genuine anger born of a lack of understanding, which our forefathers at the time of the Vedas knew. You can't go to any place in India where there's a rivulet half the size of this stage without seeing an assemblage of rocks which was a temple. We knew that water was the source. We knew Jangal Nadi ki maa hai, that the forest produced the river. We knew that without the sun we couldn't live. But all this is forgotten. I think the real problem right now, as I see it, and why a book like this is a truth-telling book. But telling the truth to people who will not read is a problem. It's been a problem now for 40 years. Now look, we are at a critical juncture right now, but these little bachas here, that they are my constituency. So I will not allow the wolf to come out. Let me just in 60 seconds share what I share with children. You cannot lie to them. First you start with an apology. I'm sorry, my little boys and girls, we're doing a very bad job of planet management. But the good thing is that nature is self-repairing. It will fix itself. All it needs is for young eyes like you to tell the Buddha party, the Bacha party. There are only two political parties, by the way. There's Bacha party and Buddha party in the world. You have to remind us that this is your world, and you have to remind us that it's not possible to do anything without water and air. And then the rest of it follows. So yes, it's been a long journey, but when I look from left to right, I can tell you this, that there's more awareness now, there's more understanding now, but there's also more desperation on the side of the oil, coal, gas industries, particularly coal. They want to quickly take it out. And this was at one time called the scorched earth policy. When a winning army came, then the losing army burnt everything that it could, cornfields, houses, homes, poisoned rivers, so that at least they won't have it. And that is what the tragedy today is. We are not saving tigers. We are not saving elephants. We are not saving all these various creatures. What we are doing is that these gardeners of Eden are making it possible for us to live in a biosphere that allows economics to actually unfold. The mistake, Pranay, the one horrible communications error that people like us have made is that we have not challenged economists who believe that we have to get rich and then we'll protect the environment. The fact is that every economic edifice, and under that edifice you would include health, you would include education, you would include girl child, it's built on a solid ecological base. You shake the base like a house of cards, it falls. So that's the rationale.
Well, yes, this elitist argument I think we also faced when we did Save Our Tigers, and a lot of people said, what about children, what about, you know, hunger, you talk about Save Our Tigers. So yes, the importance is to get that point across. And Ravi, what would you say, what more can we do to create more awareness without, I think, scaring everybody, because that also happens. So people have this attitude, they just want to shut it off and say, no, no, no. So, you know, how to create that awareness.
Let me start with a bias, because I think you can judge everything according to something. I'd say take the role of both of you. I'll leave Bittu out of it, because all he does is scare kids, you know. Don't get scared then. You know, you have a very, your role and you have a very far-reaching impact, which you perhaps don't realize. It's not necessarily carried in books. I'll give you an example. When we started out, when I just joined WWF many years ago, we had, through our river program, this whole issue coming out, where are the dolphins and the soos, and where is it, and what's it doing, and where does it breed, and with all this damming, where is it gone? And we started a small campaign, and we didn't know what to do with it, and you know, slowly people came across. And we had a session in the India Habitat Center where Swati, Vishnu Som, and Vikram Chandra took on the baton, did a question-answer session. It was very small, and talked about the dolphin, the challenges. And we had Shweta Bachchan with us. And she took this on and said, I will be an ambassador. I think if I go back into the communication aspect of this particular species, that was incomparable to anything that I had seen in the last 50 years at that time. Now, things have gone forward, many things have happened. But these things which are done in a way that I call in a very thought-through manner, where the walkthrough is being structured, where you have an impact on people, and programs are very important. And this is where I think the future lies. This is where you're not going to be able to change the age of the Holocene. Now we are in the Anthropocene, which is basically that this is the age where mankind shapes the environment rather than the other way around. And perhaps the extinction that we'll bring in will be largely, you know, causal due to our cause because of our activities. So, how to make the big change? I think the two things. We have to get away from this word called awareness. Awareness is at a different level of life, I mean, age, etc. You have to start from communicating knowledge, so people know and can make intelligent choices. So, you know, you spoke about predators and how they remove certain conflicts within the breeding cycle, and therefore bring more strong specimens into the fold. But we have another issue in India, which is that because of the shrinking spaces and the ingress of, you know, disease, etc., a lot of our predators may get into the canine distemper syndrome, which we are finding. We found them in lions in Eastern Africa, East Africa, and now we found them in tigers in Pilibhit. And if it is there in them, then it would be in the dhole, it would be in the hyena, it will be in the jackal, it will be in others, etc. Now, to attack that problem is similar to the way we have removed polio in our in the present time. Not difficult. You don't have to go and shoot every dog, etc., but there's a way out. And these 8 or 10 solutions of the kind that I'm talking about make a huge difference by understanding what the problem is and making those kind of directed changes. And the second point, is let's invest through the media that you have bringing to people in knowledge. I cannot say enough about it, because through that will come not alarm, not the kind of work that people like Bittu have done in yeoman service to create to show the people the atmosphere that you are in, and therefore what, but also the solution aspect.